Okay, hello guys and welcome to my channel. Today is the 4th of July, a holiday in America. That's why I'm wearing an American sweatshirt. And I have a guest today. His name is Vlad and he's from Russia. But he's doing his Harvard MBA. And you know what's the funniest thing? When we moved to the building where we are right now, where I live right now, we met Vlad, and he actually watched my channel before getting into Harvard. Yeah, that is so cool, right? And he's our neighbor. So I asked him to join me today to answer your questions about getting into Harvard. And as you know, Harvard MBA is the top MBA in the world. If you look at any ranking, so I use usnews.com ranking, and Harvard has been the first for many years. And yeah, I know we're just warming up and we see new people coming, so we're already 77. What I wanted to remind you guys is that if you have any questions, we'll be reading them on LinguaTrip's website. The website is, if you're watching from YouTube, is below the video. So if you click a link below, you will be able to ask your question using your Facebook on linguatrip.com. So yeah, for those who are just joining us, please let me know which country you're from and if you are looking at doing an MBA at all, or if you're just here to, you know, practice your English.
I like the comment, oh yeah, Harvard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so yeah, welcome everyone. We will be waiting for the last ones to join. Meanwhile, Vlad, can you tell us a little about yourself? So what is your background?
Yeah, so right now I have finished my first year at Harvard Business School. Prior to my MBA, I was working at Get, that is the largest European ride-hailing company, competing with Uber. There I was responsible for business development, was the head of business development, and part of top management team. Before that, I was working at McKinsey, doing consulting in retail, consumer goods, banking, healthcare. Earlier, I also worked as a consultant at Accenture. And for me, I think it was always obvious that I should go to MBA, so I just decided to do that.
How old were you when you decided to do that?
I think I was 25 or 26.
Yeah, and what is the average age, you said?
I would say that the average age it depends on the university. I think at Stanford it's higher, but in general at HBS, I think it's around 27 or something.
Okay, so yeah, you're writing that you cannot hear me. I think the problem might be the mic. Okay, let me know if you hear me well. I can do like this when I'm asking a question because this mic is just for one person. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the comments if they can hear me. Hi, Marina. Age limit and experience to join Harvard MBA. Yeah, we're gonna answer that. So yeah, if you have any questions, like if you could go to LinguaTrip and just ask them there. I'm gonna ask some questions right now. Oh, I can hear you perfectly. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna ask some questions right now, and then we're just gonna go to LinguaTrip's website, and I'm gonna read all of your questions to Vlad, and he's gonna answer. So yeah, well, my first question would be, what was your GPA?
GPA was around 5 out of 5.
So 5 out of 5, 100%. And what's your university? So what was your university?
So I'm from Russia, and last 7 years I lived in Moscow, but originally I'm not from Moscow. I'm from a smaller city, it's called Kursk. And I have a university, like my bachelor degree there. It was not any like well-known brand or like well-known university, so just a regular Russian university. Then I moved to Moscow and I got my master's degree there. Mm-hmm. This one was quite well known in Moscow, but still, I mean, it's not known here in US. Okay. So I would say it's no top brand, just regular university.
And what was the name?
Higher School of Economics.
Okay. Okay, cool. So 5 out of 5, Higher School of Economics. You have experience in working for an international company. So how long have you been working before you joined? So what was the total? Sorry, I'm gonna do it like this because I know you can't hear.
Do they hear me?
Yeah, I think they hear you, but they might not always hear me. Yeah, you're louder than me, like 100%. You're so loud. Why? Okay. Okay, guys, can you hear me like this? And let me know if you can hear me, if you cannot hear Vlad, because I cannot figure out. I see that the sound is like, it's active. Okay. Here I'm going. Okay. Oh yeah, we can hear you. Okay, good, good. So I'm gonna do it like this. It's gonna look weird. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. Yes. Okay. We can hear you. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Perfect. Got it. Thank you so much. So yeah. 5.0 GPA, well-known university, years of experience.
Not a well-known university.
Well, not a well-known in the world, but a pretty well-known.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And how many years of work experience?
I think it was around 5 or 6. 5, I think.
Okay, 5 years of work experience. And I wanted to add, guys, so I've attended a couple of Harvard MBA sessions for those who want to enter Harvard, and they said, you can always try and apply for a Harvard MBA, even if you don't have work experience. And they actually had like one of the girls who did her bachelor's in Harvard and then applied for the MBA. But I would say your application is more competitive if you have work experience, and it's better that your work experience comes from a well-known company. So do you know how many people you have with experience in a well-known big company, like, I don't know?
I would say that like 70% people are from the well-known companies, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are looking for the people from the well-known companies. I think HBS right now is doing a good job at developing entrepreneurship, and I think more and more they're looking for people with startup experience and entrepreneurship experience. I don't know exactly the admission criteria, but my feeling is that they're practically looking for those types of people.
Do you know any entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I have lots of guys in my section and in my class who were doing startups before HBS.
Okay, were their startups successful? What was the outcome of the startup?
I mean that depends on how you do determine success, but some of them have sold their shares in the startup, so I think it was pretty successful. Yeah.
So it's a pretty successful startup, yeah. Because sometimes people ask me, I have this private consultations when they ask me. So for example, I run this company and I have like 3 employees, but we haven't raised anything. Would that be counted towards like a startup experience? I would say it's better to have a success story, right?
I would say if there is a good story behind it, then you can sell it. Maybe your startup is small and it's like 3 people, but if 3 people in your startup are helping hundreds of people to solve some problem, and you can explain what this problem is and why this is important for people, then probably it will be a good story.
And yeah, walking. So yeah, cool. And what was, like, there are many questions already about your GMAT and your TOEFL. So let's talk about GMAT first. What was your score?
My score was 710. I would say it's like the lower bar.
Yeah. So the average, I think the average is 740, right?
730 or something.
30.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and how long did it take you to prepare?
It took me quite a long time to prepare, since I didn't have a math background and English is not my first language. I think I've tried like 3 times. Finally, I was successul, and I was super happy to finish it. So
how long in total? Do you remember? So from the
half a year probably.
Half a year?
Yeah.
Have you tried to pass once, or you tried many times?
Like 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah.
So 3 actual exams?
Yeah.
And what was your score? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but they were low.
Okay. Yeah, so my advice here would be so try to do as many practice tests as you can at home. Have you done any practice tests at home?
Yeah, I've done lots of tests.
Tutor. Have you done? Okay. So yeah. Okay. So you tried 2 times. And I know you tried to apply to other universities as well, right?
Yes. So at first I think I applied a year before to Stanford with really low GMAT score. So
what is really low?
I think it was 680.
680.
So yeah.
For top schools, it is, well, for a lot of like 90% of business schools, this would be a great score, because like 650, 680. But if we're talking about top 20 business schools, and we're talking about like Stanford and Harvard, of course, it's better if your GMAT score starts with a 7, and it's better that it's somewhere around the median GMAT, and for Harvard and Stanford is around 730. Okay, so you try to apply with 680.
Yeah, I think the main problem with GMAT is the lack of time, because the time lag between each try should be at least 1 month. So you don't have, if you're working in management consultant and you don't have enough time, this is a huge problem to pass the exam, simply because you don't have enough time.
Okay.
So yeah, and then next year I applied to probably all the top MBAs. I was invited everywhere to the interviews, and I was accepted to Harvard. And I think the main difference was that at Harvard you have professional HR people who are doing the interviews, while at other schools you have graduates. And I think my general feedback from the other schools was that I was too much experienced for these schools, and their main question was, why do I even apply to MBA if I have such a great position? I was the head of business development at that time at a global startup.
And why did you apply? What did you say? So why did you choose your MBA right now?
I think I couldn't provide a great answer at that moment, and probably that's why I actually passed the first round, like essays, but on the interviews, I think I got this feedback that I'm like too much experience for the MBA.
Okay, so can you name the schools that you applied to?
It's like top 4 schools.
Like Stanford.
Stanford, I just applied in the first round, like the year before, and then like Chicago, Berkeley, and so on.
Okay, I like that. This sounds like a great story. Like rejected from Chicago, both Stanford, but accepted to Harvard. Yes. This is great. Okay, and what was your TOEFL score?
So I tried both IELTS and TOEFL. TOEFL is in general, I think they accept TOEFL in more schools than IELTS. So I started with IELTS, and IELTS was 8. And my TOEFL, I think, was comparatively lower than IELTS. So I just used my IELTS everywhere.
Okay. So in general, your process, it seems like your process took like 2 years, right?
The first year I didn't really have time. So my best recommendation for people applying right now to MBA is to take your time, like, I don't know, take a leave, take a vacation, and prepare and pass the exam and do the essay, and then apply. Don't try to do it in parallel with your job. I think it's really hard.
Yeah, I guess preparing for GMAT is so tough, because I tried to do it parallel with the job, and I tried to spend like 2 hours every day preparing for GMAT and the whole weekend, and it takes a lot of your energy, definitely. So the next question, so you applied to Harvard in the first round, right?
In the second. I don't remember. Probably in the second.
Okay, second round, so January, and then they invited you to the interview.
Yes.
Did you need to travel?
Yes, my interview. Actually, they send you a list of countries where you can do the interview. You can also do the interview online on Skype. But I think, of course, the best way to do the interview is travel. So I had my interview in London, and it was really great. It was, from out of all my interviews to business school, HBS interview process was the best one, because you are talking to professional admission people who know all your background when you come there. They know like everything about yourself. They know your biography, and they just want to selectively check some of the details. And it's really good to talk to someone who really knows a lot about you. Okay.
Cool. And but did you have to travel for other interviews as well?
No, all the other interviews were in the home country because they were with alumni.
So, yeah. Okay. And so which questions did they ask you on the interview?
Actually, you can find all the questions on Google. As I've said, they wanted to check some details that they found interesting in my background. So I think the interview is 45 minutes. It's really tough in terms of the timeline, so they just ask you questions one by one. They don't really give you much time to answer. So time pressure is huge, but at the same time they are super friendly and open, and you really find it like very much interesting and insightful to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, after the interview, you have to write a reflection on the interview, and it's like the second essay that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you have probably 24 hours to write this essay. And yeah, I found that really interesting to sit in my hotel room and share my insights from the interview, share something I've learned about myself also, since I was talking with professional admitting committee that I think these people really know how to ask the right questions.
Yeah, I can share. Yeah, I can totally agree, because when I was interviewing for MIT, they knew everything about me. And she was like asking me about my YouTube channel and about my startup. And I was like, oh, really? She's done a great job. So yeah, I think the interviews are mostly, even if they are in Skype, they want to make sure you are who you are, so that you've written your motivation letters, because there are loads of people who ask like professionals to create the whole story for them, which is not the best thing to do, because you have to be genuine, you have to be yourself, and they want to make sure you are yourself, that you speak English. This is also for international students. I talked to some admission guys, and they say there are so many students who can take TOEFL and score like 100, but then you ask them a question and they cannot comprehend, they cannot understand you. So for international students, an interview is also a reason, like a mean to check your English language level. Yeah, I feel like what if startup fails question. Sorry, I'm reading it, not hearing it. So even if your startup fails, like Harvard, we're talking about Harvard today. Harvard is looking for extraordinary people, and even if it's a startup, they're looking for an extraordinary story behind your startup. And if it failed because I don't know, you had 1 million users a day and your service crashed and you didn't have money to pay for extra servers, this is an interesting story. If it just failed because you started and nobody wanted to buy your product and you shut it down, this is not an extraordinary story. So always remember that. Always, when you're writing a personal statement, when you're thinking about what to say in your interview, keep that in mind, that top business schools are looking for extraordinary professionals. Even if it's a startup, even if it's, even if you just did your bachelor's and thinking of doing a startup, there has to be something extraordinary in your background. So I'm coming to the interesting part. What about funding?
HBS helps with funding. Mm-hmm. So first of all, they give you financial aid.
Mm-hmm. So how does the process look like? Did you have to state in your application that you're going to be applying for financial aid, or?
I think you stated in the application, but they don't check anything at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So after you get accepted, you have to state it somewhere, like on the website once again.
Mm-hmm.
Then depending on your salary levels, on your property you have, and so on, they give you a financial aid that can be up to 70% of the tuition.
What is it, the maximum?
I don't know the maximum, but I think it's up to 75% of the tuition. Mm-hmm. That will be like roughly 40% of the total cost of the of 2 years of studying.
Okay.
Then they can also provide you a loan, because not HBS, but Harvard has its own bank where you can actually take the loan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, Harvard Business School is NEET blind business school, and Harvard University is NEET blind, and there are many universities that are NEET blind, and I'm going to explain what NEET blind means. So when you apply, even if you say that you're going to rely on the university's financial aid, that you have $1,000 of savings and that's it for your studies, they are not going to consider this a part of application. They're not going to tell you, hey, your application is great, but because you only have $1,000, we're not going to accept you. This is not the case with NEET blind business schools. But there are also schools that are NEET aware, and this is where you have to really pay attention, because if they're NEET aware and your application is not really strong and you're stating that you're going to rely on university's financial aid, they can reject you just based on that. Again, I'm repeating, Harvard is not like that. So once you get into Harvard and you show them your bank statement, they're going to figure out the rest. So for example, as Vlad said, they can cover up to 70% of tuition fees with scholarships or fellowships or assistantships. Do they have that?
There are. First of all, there is this fellowship. Then there are also scholarships. For example, there are like the scholarship for people coming from Poland, for example, and something like this. So I think you should check the website, and there are like different sources of financing on the website with exact percentage and with exact money. And I'm just I don't want to be mistaken here, so yeah, I don't want to provide exact numbers.
Yeah, and the information is new every year. So I always recommend, like, if you're relying on universities' financial aid, always ask how much is it possible to get covered by universities' funds. And also, like, so 70% can get covered with financial fellowships and scholarships. The rest can be covered with loans. And Harvard is one of the schools that can give loans to international students, because not every university can give, like, this is not Harvard itself who's giving you money, but they're working with banks. And because you got into Harvard, you have this credibility, and banks wouldn't need a person in the States to like co-sign with you. They would just need a paper from Harvard stating that they've admitted you and you're going to get your loan. Have you taken any loans?
Yes.
Yeah. So, tell us how it works. So tell us about your financial aid.
It's, again, I can't tell the exact numbers, but it's like super simple. You just submit the form on the website, and then they say like, hey, your loan is approved. And then each loan has installments. So I think you get a portion of your loan every semester. So like in September, you get like the first portion, then in January, the second one, and so on.
Do you know how the repayment works? How long would you need to?
Yeah, I don't need to repay anything during like the next two and a half years. So the 2 years while I'm studying, and I think a half a year after that. And then I need to like pay some every month.
Do you know if it's based on your salary? Because I know sometimes you provide your salary, you say like, I got this salary, I can contribute 20% of my salary.
It's not based on the salary. I think it's a fixed sum, but there are like in general in US there are like lots of options to refinance, to repay your loan, and so on. I have not checked it yet, but
you're gonna check it.
Probably, maybe not. I hope not. But I think there are like lots of ways
no refinancing, I mean repaying.
Yeah. So, but I think in general there are like lots of ways to think about that.
Yeah. Can you disclose the amount of financial aid you receive?
I don't know if I can. So.
Okay. If you can, we're gonna shoot a video probably, and I'm gonna ask about that later. Okay.
But it's good. I was happy.
Yeah, you were happy?
Yeah.
Is this something you expected, or it was above your expectations?
I think it was above my expectations.
Cool. Nice. Okay, so yeah, the success story. Applied to 6 business schools, rejected from 5, accepted to Harvard with a really generous offer in terms of financial aid. Yeah, I think it sounds great. Okay, so, and maybe let's talk about your internship. So you are now in San Francisco doing your internship, which is compulsory, right, for the program? You need to work during the summer.
I don't need. I mean, I can just travel, and I have lots of friends who prefer to travel. One of my friends is actually taking like pilot classes in Boston right now, and he's like, getting ready to get his pilot license. So it just depends.
How did you find the startup that you're working for right now?
There are lots of ways. First of all, you have a career website at HBS that works really cool. They organize you the interviews. You can also make the bids on the interviews for the companies. Then there are also different clubs, like Tech Club, Finance Club, and they all send you like weekly emails where they have like the recent industry news plus what's going on at HBS, like conferences, meetups, and so on. And they also have like open job opportunities for summer or full-time, so that you can actually answer and apply. So I think I found my startup at one of these weekly emails from the Tech Club.
Nice. So, and you applied and you got accepted and you came to San Francisco for 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, pretty easy to get a summer internship. And my next question would be, like, how does your class look like? Do you have like a lot of extraordinary people? Because I hear that the like Harvard Business School has the best minds from all over.
Yeah, the class was a great surprise. Lots of extraordinary people. I was surprised by the people who worked in the government. They are like really educated, well educated. They know lots of interesting things about US politics and what's going on. There are like military guys who are like really extraordinary. There are guys with all the different backgrounds, finance, consulting, and so on. These are similar in mind to me, so I know these people quite well. There are some guys who did startups, and they also have this broad and interesting experience. And then we have people also from different countries, even from small ones. We have a guy coming from Ghana, really small. So yes, and in the HBS classroom, you can actually find the flags of all the countries where the people come from, and the whole classroom is filled with flags.
Nice. And do you feel like you're a part of elite club?
Yes, I think so. I actually feel that in the airports when you are wearing some HBS merchandise and then people come into you saying, "Hey, I'm also HBS."
I'm doing that all the time. I have a Harvard hat and I wear it in San Francisco, and it was like, "Oh, did you graduate from Harvard?" I'm like, no. I visited the Harvard Museum and the Harvard shop.
Yeah, it works. And there is also alumni website where you can find all the alumni from all the Harvard programs, not only HBS, but also Harvard University. And in this website, you can actually text to any of them, and people respond. So that's actually one of the way people find the summer internship or the full-time job.
Okay, nice. And yeah, the question I forgot to ask about the application, I see somebody's asking about statement of purpose essays. Can you tell us what did you write about in your statement of purpose?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So last year, the topic was please introduce yourself to the classmates. And when I was thinking of that, and I knew that HBS is really famous for its case method, so I decided to use a case method to introduce myself. And since I had this healthcare background, I started with a case, like how would you improve healthcare in a developing country where healthcare is free of charge? And what will you do? How you prioritize the limited budget? How would you improve the service quality, or would you concentrate on the medical outcomes? And then I made a transition to my biography, how I started with work and travel program here in US, how I was working in the service industry here in US, and how I found that people here can do really low-skilled job, but at the same time they will be smiling, happy about that job.
That was in my last video. Did you?
I haven't seen it, but yeah, that's true. People here will be always warm, and they will be welcoming you. So I think that was one of my first this service kind of experience that struck me a lot. And then while I was working consultant, I was doing lots of projects in healthcare, and I was working a lot on service quality, and I was really interested on how improving service quality is influencing medical outcomes. So I talked a lot about this, and then I made a transition to my work at Get, where I was also launching services. I was launching delivery service, and I was talking how I was working on service quality there. And then I was talking about my objective, and my objective was to launch new services that will benefit humans, that will have this cool service quality, actually. And yeah, I think that was a great story to tell.
Great. How long did it take you to come up with the letter?
Months.
Months?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is another advice. I'm just going to hold the mic. This is another advice. Is that, yeah, when you're writing a personal statement, you really need to pay attention because it's going to take you around 2 weeks, which is minimum, right? 2 weeks will be minimum. It took me around a month to get ready for my statement of purpose. And yeah. yeah, it took me around 2 months, and I kept rewriting it and rechecking it, and always. Did you have like somebody to check your personal statement?
Well, I think the best way is to talk to the alumnus, like to the people who graduated or are starting at HBS right now, because they're actually the best people. They've done it before, and they can provide you like a good advice.
Mm-hmm.
What should be there, like probably should you add something or not.
Mm-hmm.
And also in each essay you have a part that is, you know, describing what are your objectives at HBS. And the best way to learn about HBS is to talk to people from HBS.
How did you reach them? How did you find them?
I did it in a different way. I actually, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I traveled to US and I visited all the business schools.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I lived at HBS for a week. I really lived in the dorms. So I just had good friends there.
Oh, okay.
So I visited some classes. I was, you know, traveling around Boston, and yeah, this helped me a lot. I knew how the things were working at HBS. I knew the business school really well. So visiting business schools helped me a lot.
Okay. Yeah, for those who just joined us, the questions. So Vlad is from Moscow, and now he's doing his Harvard MBA. He just graduated from his year 1. Can you say that? He just finished his year 1.
His first year.
Yeah, he's doing his internship in San Francisco right now, and in September he's going back to Boston to continue. And I'm asking him, like, drilling him with admissions questions, like how you get into Harvard. Cool. So yeah, and my another advice, like getting connected with the alumni. What worked for me, I think, in both MIT and Johns Hopkins. I just reached out to the admissions committee and asked them, hey, do you have any entrepreneurs? Because I'm coming from this entrepreneur's background and I have my own company. Can you please connect me with somebody who has graduated from your school and is maybe running a business? And they gave me LinkedIn links to the profiles of the guys who graduated, and I connected with them. I wouldn't say it was really, really helpful. I would say it was just like a confirmation that, yes, there are entrepreneurs coming out of this business school, and maybe I looked at their like startups and I compared their startups to mine, and I thought of the ways to present my startup. And also another thing, I know many business schools are introducing like video interviews, not video, like instead of an essay, for example, at MIT, you can create a video, and there are so many MIT videos on YouTube. You can just watch them, and you can then Google people and see whether they got in, because they publish that information on LinkedIn. This is what I also did. Why am I holding the microphone? Because if it's standing, the sound is not really good. That's why I'm like doing weird things right here. Okay, so I'm gonna go to your questions, guys. Again, for those who just joined, I'm gonna post a link once again. Uh-oh, just a moment. No, it's not that one. I'm gonna post a link in our chat, and if you have questions, please follow that link and ask the question. And we're gonna start with the really first ones. I'm gonna update the page right now. So let's see. Okay, hi Marina. Blah blah blah. Hello. Okay. Tomorrow is my interview on Skype for a high school in the US. Can you give me some tips? How should I prepare? Okay, if it's a high school, I guess you just need to practice speaking English on Skype. I hope you had a tutor, or maybe you have a tutor who can help you practice, because Skype interview is different from a live interview. Because if you're talking to a person like this, it's easier because you have your body language, you can smile and whatever, like send your energy. But through Skype, it's a little different. Make sure you have enough lighting so the person can see you. Because I've talked to some admission guys and they say, like, sometimes we talk to a person, he's sitting in a dark room because it's midnight in the country where the student is, and everything is black, and there is like this face lightened by the screen. It looks so weird. So make sure you don't do that. Make sure you have enough lighting, good connection, good microphone. I don't think there's a lot you can do in a day, but I think the standard questions they're asking is like, what are you doing right now? Like, how's your job going? Is there anything new since you've applied? This is something they're always asking. And another thing, I think you can also contribute that. So what they always ask me at the interview, they asked, do you have any questions for us. And it's really good if you have a couple of questions, because if you say like no, it means maybe you're not really interested, or you're like, I don't know what, but they can make their own conclusions. So I would always ask about, like, my questions were about running a startup, and doing MBA at the same time. I was asking whether they had students doing that. I was asking if I can do, if I can run my startup instead of doing an internship during summer. And yeah, Harvard told me, yes, you totally can. We're going to give you $10,000 for you to start a company, which is great. I think MIT does the same. Yeah, what did you ask?
Yeah, I think, like, first of all, really good advice about your questions to the interviewer, because the main objective here is not to simply ask the question, but it's your last chance to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you ask really smart questions, and the questions that can actually lead into a good conversation,
mm-hmm.
where you can also share and contribute with your knowledge. The second thing is, I think you should also Google for the most typical questions in this university, because again, even for HBS, you can find all the questions in the internet, and you should just prepare to these questions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're interested in financial aid, I think this is also your opportunity to tell about your like savings, whatever, or ask whether you can.
Or lack of savings.
or lack of savings, yeah, and ask whether they provide. Whether they could provide enough financial aid. So I always, when I was interviewing for Johns Hopkins, they asked me the question like, why would you choose us instead of any other universities? Because they always know that you're applying to not just one university, you're applying to like 5 or 6. And I told them that my decision would really depend on the amount of financial aid. And I think this really influenced their decision, because they offered me the full scholarship. So if you're like looking for this financial aid, don't forget to mention it, because you don't want to be in a situation where they give you an offer and they also send you an invoice for $100,000, and this is the only way for you to get in and get your student visa. So make sure you're open and clear with the university, because you're talking to people who are making this decision and who are going to submit your case to the financial aid department. So I would say be honest about it. Okay. Okay, we answered that. Can an MBA student, oh, sorry. They graduate from top 200 US national school ranking, continue a PhD in one of top 50 business schools in the US. Yeah, I don't really think, well, I would say yes. If it's top 200, it's also important that you pass GRE or GMAT, depending on what kind of PhD you're pursuing, and also have publications, because PhD is about research, and it's about working with your professor and making research together. So make sure you have the right professor who has the same interests, scientific interests as you. And when you apply, you need to show him what you've already done. And the best way to show it is to show your articles published in English in some scientific magazines. Have you ever considered a PhD?
No, but I was really thinking, not that I was really thinking, but when I got, when I was finishing my first year at Harvard, I was really upset that I'm too old to do a double program. Like, there are 3 years program at Harvard when you get a joint degree at MBA and probably like somewhere else, for example, in the School of Political Science, because I was really surprised how good are the professors from the Kennedy School, how experienced they are, how unbiased they are, and like, they really make their classes, they lead the classes like a show, and it's so exciting. So if I was probably like 3 years younger, I would definitely make a 3 years program combining my MBA and School of Political Science.
Why do you say you were too old? Is that because this is something you think, or they have like an age limit?
No, they don't have an age limit. It's just for me. I think if like, I don't want to spend 3 years on studying at my point right now, but if I was 25, I would definitely do that.
Okay. Oh, next, a great question. We haven't actually covered them as well, letters of recommendation. And the question is how much does the letter of recommendation matter, and who should be the right person to get it from? Professors, managers, colleagues? I'll give you that.
Yeah, so I think there is that myth that your letters of recommendation should be from some well-known people, some really cool people, HBS alumnus. Not necessarily. My recommendation is to get the recommendations from the people who know you well, rather than people who know you a bit, but they are like HBS alumnus, or they are well-known people in your country or globally. I actually had an opportunity to get recommendation from HBS alumni, really well-known person in Russia, but I just decided to have my recommendation from my project manager, who actually had much more to tell about me. So, and that worked for me. And I heard a lot of stories about that. So my advice here is to really get recommendation from someone who knows you. If it is HBS alumni, or if it is like, you know, a well-known person, it's even better, but it's not the point.
And were you okay with telling your manager that you're applying for an MBA?
Yeah, because consulting is a project management job, and you know, at that time, I mean, it's completely natural for consultants to do the MBA. It's like an educational leave, so everyone was fine with it.
Okay, yeah, I know many people are struggling with this question because they kind of don't really want to tell their manager, because if they do not get accepted, they want to stay in their job. The advice here is to ask for a recommendation from your colleagues, or from your partners, or from sometimes your clients if it's a corporate client. And also talking about like celebrities or whatever, I was talking to a Stanford's admission guy, and he said, you know, we have so many extraordinary people applying to Stanford, and we have daughters and sons of presidents, we have daughters and sons of princes and kings, and we get all kinds of recommendations. But and they are actually already blind for those celebrity names. They don't really care because they're getting most of them. What they care about is how deep the person knows you, and how much feedback you can provide on you being in a professional environment, or like telling anecdotes about your real life, and not just, you know, saying that you're a really responsible person, you're gonna get into Harvard, and you're gonna do your MBA and get the best grades. So business schools are looking for leaders, and the best proof of your leadership is your past success. So for example, if you're asking your project manager to submit a recommendation, you need to ask him for specific anecdotes, specific situations where you proved to be a leader. I don't know, maybe you had like 3 days to complete the project, and then the next day there's a thunderstorm in Moscow, and the electricity switches off, and you like take the whole team to Finland, and you complete the project, like to St. Petersburg. So these real anecdotes can show the admissions committee who you are as a professional, as a person, as a leader. So yeah, don't try to reach somebody who is really high and who would just write a really formal recommendation letter. Look for somebody who's going to make it personal.
I can actually add. So one of the guy, actually my project manager who was doing a reference to me, he also submitted the links to the on the website with the TV news, with the news about our project.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so it was like 5 links to the like top Russian channel with the news about our project, so that his story, his reference about me was backed up with this. It was in Russian, so I don't know if they really looked at this or not. And even if they looked, probably they didn't understand anything. But he did that, and so I think, yeah, don't be scared to do something extraordinary.
Yeah, don't like scan all of your diplomas to prove that you've done something. Don't scan your articles, but providing a couple of links, it's not obligatory, but it can just back your application. Yeah, and also, yeah, if you have articles, also provide links. And I also wanted to tell something. Yeah, so some people ask me what are they going to check. They're not going to really check what you're saying. They're not going to do like a background check on your recommender, but they're going to look whether it sticks with your application. If you say, for example, I had 3 out of 5 GPA at school, and then I failed at the university, but then I started my, well, this looks legit. But then I went to a consulting firm and I got promoted, but nobody knows the consulting firm. And this might look a little sketchy. So make sure the story is complete and there are no like fall-offs.
Well, in my case, I had another guy from my project who was also applying to HBS, and they were actually asking us the same questions. So if we both don't tell the truth, or like we you know, had different facts, that would look really strange. So I think if you're like applying from a top-known investment bank or a consulting firm, make sure that, you know, you and your friends are like on the same page. And I mean, it would be strange if one of us told something like completely different about the project.
Yeah, that would be weird. And also make sure your recommender is submitting a recommendation with a corporate email, because sometimes if they see like @gmail.com, this can be something that could be made up, like you create an email for your professor or whatever. So make sure the email is coming from a corporate email. Okay, next question. Do you know what MIM is? Masters in Marketing.
No.
Probably Masters in Marketing. Sorry, I don't know what MIM is.
Master in Management.
Okay, Masters in Management is not really. There are not loads of Masters in Management. Normally, people do an MBA because it's a. So Masters in Economics is normally a 1-year program. MBA is a 2-year program. It's more complete. It has more things to it added, because as I always say, like MBA is not about knowledge that you're getting, it's about the community, it's about meeting new people and building your network. And if it's a 1-year program where you have to study 9 hours a day, then there is no time for networking. And when it's a 2-year program, then you have enough time for everything. So yeah, really, again, when I was selecting my university, my first criteria was getting financial aid, which is probably not the best criteria to select a program, but so I was applying to those masters. So for example, Johns Hopkins doesn't provide financial aid for an MBA, but it provides financial aid for masters, so I just applied for masters. But at the same time, University of Florida only had financial aid for an MBA program.
That's a funny question. I like it.
Which one?
The last one.
Would it be better to an MBA at Harvard or an MBA at Stanford for a person that wants to run a startup in the USA? Can you answer it?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, you should get accepted to both. Yeah, and then having a choice, you would probably think of that. I don't know. I've never studied at Stanford. I can only tell about Harvard, and Harvard is doing a great job right now at attracting entrepreneurship people. In developing entrepreneurship, they provide you all the resources. They provide you iLab with all the infrastructure you need. They provide you mentors. They are changing the program a lot. So right now, I think we have lots of entrepreneurship classes. We have lots of classes like e-commerce, digital marketing, and so on. So yeah, I think they're working on it, and they're doing a really great job. And if you look at the number of startups coming from Harvard, it's quite impressive. So yeah, I mean, I would say that HBS definitely has a great infrastructure to run your own startup. The main problem will be lack of time, but that's a different question.
Yeah, I think maybe it also depends on what kind of startup you're running, because I feel that East Coast is more about finance and legal stuff. Whereas Stanford and like West Coast is more about IT. But again, it depends. I think it's about the culture you're in.
Yeah, also Boston is a great place for biotechnology, for robotics,
medical
and stuff. Yes, but also lots of just, you know, on-demand startups or something like this are coming from HBS. So yeah, I think it's a good place to do something on your own. Moreover, if you have HBS, you can also have people or co-founders from MIT that is just across the river. So you actually get the synergies of 2 universities that are both together. like 1 + 1 is always better than just 1.
Yeah, so apply to both, then see whether you get into both, and see what kind of financial aid you're getting from every single, and then you compare. Because we had a student who got accepted to both Harvard PhD in economics and Stanford PhD in economics, and he waited till his financial situation was released, like the amount of financial aid, and then he made this decision. So just do both. Okay, we're getting on to the next question. Okay. I'm about to start my undergraduate studies in computer science in India. What do you think I should start doing from now for the next 4 years? Okay, yeah, the question is, what can I do now when I'm just studying my bachelor's degree to get into a top university to do MBA? Well, I would say maintaining a high GPA, having like 100%, really important. Then what else? Maybe getting work experience?
I would say that doing anything extracurricular will help a lot, because I guess there are like lots of people with great GPA from India or with great technical background. I think if you can add something unique to your application, it will definitely work for you. Think of a startup that you can launch. Think of some social initiative. Probably, I mean, social initiatives have lots of impact and they don't need so much time. So think about that, and or I mean, think about doing something in science, like maybe writing articles, maybe doing some research that will be well known. That I think that also works.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and yeah, I would also say start preparing for your GMAT during the year 3, because during the year 4 you will be applying to all of the business schools, and remember that you have to submit your application 1 year prior to beginning of your studies, and this is the best, like if you go into the round 1, which is September. So this means that during the year 4 in September, you will need to have your GMAT and TOEFL score if you need it. If you don't, then just GMAT. So start preparing as early as you can. Okay, I'm trying to select relevant questions. Yeah, another great question about, like, does it matter if it's a top 10 school or an Ivy League school? We're just discussing it lately. So Ivy League, it doesn't. So what is not? So Stanford is not Ivy League, right? Let's Google Ivy League schools or MIT's Ivy League schools. So Ivy League is not a tuition quality ranking. It's just 8 private schools that took part in this competition in, let's see, swimming or whatever was it? Yeah, sports. It's Brown University, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, Pennsylvania, Princeton, Yale. So Stanford is not even there, but Stanford is ranked number 2 in terms of business schools. So I wouldn't pay attention to whether the school is Ivy League or not. I would pay attention to official rankings in the program. And okay, I'm going back to the question. I'm sorry. So yeah, I wouldn't say if the school is not in the Ivy League, it's not a good school. You should really pay attention to the rankings. What can what can I do if I graduate from top 10 MBA schools that I cannot do if I graduate from top 100? I would say network is different. Of course, if you go to Harvard, you have access to high ranking people. I don't know, because you have people who are running companies who have done a significant work in their home country, and maybe like you have better access to companies that recruit from those universities. I know the top consulting firms recruit from like only Harvard or Stanford, and they wouldn't recruit you if you're from a low-ranking MBA. What would you say?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's I would say like 3 things. The first is quality of education. Actually, HBS was the school that invented case method, and like most of the US schools are teaching by HBS cases. So HBS is one of the oldest schools, and definitely like it tells you a lot about the quality of education. The second is networking. I think in the top schools, the networking opportunities will be better than in other schools. Also, HBS has an executive education where you can also find the bright people. So I think networking is important. And finally, career opportunities. Think about some top company in the United States. Can they go to all the 100 MBAs? No, they can't. They will just go to the top schools and hire people from the top schools. So the better rank the school has, the better for you and the more opportunities you will have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. Okay, we're actually running out of time here, so I wanted just to, yeah, maybe answer the last question. Okay. What if neither professors nor employees have corporate email addresses? Is it a compulsory thing? I've never seen a professor not having a corporate email, because every university would require, no?
Yeah, I think they all will have. The only I think the only exception will be when your I don't know, when your project manager already left the job, and it's not your like previous job but the job before. In that case, ask him to use his current job email address, so that probably he's working for another company, but still it's not a Gmail address.
Yeah.
And then in that case, I think it may be fine. Same as with the professor. If he is at some university, he will have this corporate address.
Yeah, or maybe like maybe your faculty has a corporate address and your professor has access to it. Then ask him to provide a recommendation from the faculty email address. But yeah, it totally. We had like sometimes students apply on their own and they just write me an email at the end of their application process, and they say they were like rejected from 5 schools, and they ask for evaluation, and I look at their applications, and all of their recommendations came from @gmail.com, and then there were mistakes in the motivation letter, and this all builds up, and this lack of credibility with your application can totally influence the decision. So make sure you're not making those mistakes that are easily that can be easily avoided, like the corporate address.
Yeah, and also you can talk to the admission committee and address them this question. Maybe they can provide for you some solution. Maybe like provide LinkedIn or articles or something like that. So.
Articles on Google Scholar. This is something credible. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, guys. So I think we read the majority of the questions on LinguaTrip, and thank you so much for joining us for this webinar today. I know Vlad wanted to do some consulting with you. He's not yet on our platform, but he's going to appear on the platform soon, and the link is going to be below. I'm going to leave this video, so if you would have any questions to Vlad, you will be able to book a private session with him. Again, thank you so much for joining today and spending some time with us. I'm going to show you the one last thing. This is where we're gonna go now. This is the swimming pool, and there's so many people out there right now because it's a holiday in the States. So yeah, I hope you have a great evening, and I hope to see you on the next webinar every Tuesday, 12 p.m.
Goodbye.
Bye.